Glad to be with all of you here today. Those of you who've stuck it out till the end of the day, thanks for being here. It's interesting, I'll be a little bit brave and admit that prior to working on this study, I don't know that I could have told you what life sciences was. Life sciences, of course, as we just learned from the many people speaking today, impacts people's lives so immensely, and I'm not sure that people always stop to realize that. I was actually, as I've been going to sessions today, thinking about all of the ways that life sciences has affected my life. My husband's actually a family medicine physician. He's in his second year of residency, so he, of course, interacts with lots of life sciences innovation on a day-to-day basis. My mom is the program head for medical lab sciences at Weber State University. And one of the things I'm most excited about is next week I'm going to go get an RSV vaccine so that my baby due in January hopefully will not have to deal with that horrific disease. So just a few examples of, how life sciences has affected me and I know affects so many others. I'm going to spend basically all of my time today talking about the data, but I think that it's important to contextualize that sometimes and realize the impact that you all do have. So thanks to all the presenters from the previous session for making that so clear. I do just want to provide a little bit of background before I jump in. As Keith mentioned, we just recently released a study. It's titled The Economic Impacts of Utah's Life Sciences and Healthcare Innovation Industry. We shortened that to life sciences for the most part. It's a little bit easier to roll that off the tongue. But this is an update to a study that was originally released in 2018. I have a co-author in the room, Levi Pace, who helped with this current study and also worked on that original study. And then this was kind of an update to that study and just helps us to have a really good understanding of what's happening economically in the life sciences industry. So I'm presenting to you, I work for the Kem C Gardner Policy Institute. I just briefly wanted to talk about who we are, for those of you who are unfamiliar with us. Our mission at the Policy Institute is to develop and share economic, demographic, and public policy research that sheds light and helps people make informed decisions. So working on this life sciences report really fits right in with our mission and vision there. Life sciences is a very important sector in Utah's economy, and we like to consider ourselves experts in Utah's economy, so understanding this industry is really important to us. So this has been a great opportunity to work on this particular report. So I'm going to go through just 4 key points today, and they correspond to the 4 sections of the report. We do have like a summary page of the report available in the back, and then the full report is available on our website. There's a QR code in the back and up here if you are interested in doing a bit of a deeper dive. So I'm going to just talk today, first about just kind of a profile of the life sciences industry in general, and then get into the economic and fiscal impacts of the industry, the workforce and growth trends by state, kind of see how Utah compares to other states in the nation, and then finish with just a little bit about life sciences in higher education. And I only plan to talk for like 20 or 25 minutes, so I'm happy to leave time for questions at the end, but if questions come up while I'm talking, feel free to raise your hand so that you don't have to try to remember it for the whole presentation. So we're going to start with a life sciences industry profile. For the purposes of our study, and it sounds like a lot of you kind of break yourself into segments within life sciences anyways, we broke the industry down into 4 segments. So the segments include medical devices and diagnostics, research, testing, and medical laboratories, therapeutics and pharmaceuticals, and then biosciences-related distribution. And in order to kind of get a handle on the industry, we spent a lot of time defining what the industry was. We used NAICS codes to help us do that. This is just an industry classification system that allows us to kind of understand what industries are going on in different areas of the economy. But there were 1,508 firms that kind of fell under that definition. But working with industry experts, we had realized that there were firms that were still life sciences that kind of fell outside of the most common NAICS code industries. So in addition to that, there are 126 firms that were handpicked that were outside of those NAICS codes to try and get kind of the most full picture we can of the life sciences industry. So overall, this study includes more than 1,600 establishments in Utah that are all considered life sciences across these 4 segments. And then I did just want to make the point briefly that these establishments are located all across the state. I know that sometimes we get Wasatch Front focused, and there's definitely a lot of life sciences companies along the Wasatch Front, but as you can see on this map, there's also companies all across the state in 21 of 29 counties, and these companies can range from, of course, being a smaller company with maybe 1 to 4 employees to companies with more than 2,000 employees, and there's really kind of a statewide presence of life sciences here. Okay, so we're going to get into the numbers a little bit, and I will spend some time contextualizing these, but this is just showing the Utah life sciences industry employment, earnings, and GDP as of 2022. And this includes workers at all of those companies that I just mentioned, but we also went ahead and estimated self-employed workers or proprietors, which there's a significant portion of those in the life sciences industry as well. And you can see here, if you just look on that bottom row, that there were about 55,000 jobs as of 2022. And the industry contributed $5.3 billion in earnings and then about $8 billion in GDP. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on each of these, kind of just getting some context for what these numbers mean. So to start, this is a photo of Rice-Eccles Stadium. I have to represent the University of Utah a little bit. And I put this picture up here because the stadium seats, I wrote it down so I wouldn't tell you wrong, 51,444 people. So if you all wanted to get together and get all the life sciences employees in one place, you don't quite fit in Rice-Eccles Stadium. You'd be about 3,500 seats short. So I just think that's kind of helpful to kind of visualize, how many employees this really is. And then I did also throw in, for those of you who are maybe not football fans but are gymnastics fans, you could also fill the Huntsman Lower Bowl almost 4 times, 3.6 times, if you want to go do some Red Rocks gymnastics instead. So really, this is just this very big number for the employees in life sciences. And then we also went ahead and looked at the demographic spread of life sciences workers. And we actually found that the life sciences industry has quite diverse employment. We first looked at it just by sex, female versus male, and that's pretty similar in life sciences compared to other industries. It's within the margin of error, about 45% or 46% of employees at life sciences companies are women. Similar share at in other industries. But then if you look on the right, you can see the workforce broken down by race and ethnicity. And you can actually see that the life science industry has a larger share of minority race and ethnicity workers compared to other industries. And this is based mostly in having a larger share of Hispanic and Latino workers, a larger share of Asian workers, and a larger share of workers that identify as some other race. And then the other race ethnicity categories are pretty similar. So we do see a diverse workforce in life sciences. Okay, and then we'll dive a little bit into earnings. So as I mentioned on that first slide, the life sciences industry supported $5.3 billion in earnings. And I think it's a little bit helpful to, again, contextualize that number a little bit. This is 3.4% of the state's total earnings in just a single industry. And then you can see on the slide how this breaks out per worker. So on the far right, this is showing average annual earnings per worker in Utah life sciences at $96,000, which is nearly 50% higher than the average annual earnings in other industries. So not only does life sciences employ a lot of workers, but it also has high wages. Okay, and then we're going to talk a little bit about GDP and output. So like I mentioned, $8 billion in GDP, which is really a measure of, professional services, manufactured goods, and other products. Then when we talk about output, it's slightly different than GDP. I won't get too much into the details, but essentially output is measuring the sales value of goods and services. And this is showing the breakdown of that output by destination. So I just think it's interesting to see that this is happening, of course, in state, but also out of state. So about 56.9% of total output of the industry is happening within the state, but then about 30% is going to other states, almost 14% is going out of country. And this, of course, brings out-of-state dollars back to Utah that then can continue to circulate and support Utah's economy. Okay, so that's kind of the overall overview of Utah's life sciences industry. We're going to get a little bit into the economic and fiscal impacts that come from all of that economic activity. So just briefly, I wanted to talk about how we try to measure economic impacts. The first thing we measure is the direct effects, and those were all of the things that we just talked about, the direct employment, earnings, and GDP. But then, of course, we think about all of the services and supplies that life sciences companies are purchasing or supporting. And those services and suppliers then also have payroll and purchases, and that kind of ripples throughout the economy. And then the employees of both life sciences companies and these supplier companies are then going to take those earnings and spend them in the economy. So all of this continues to kind of ripple through the economy, support Utah's economy, and we use some economic modeling to try to measure how much that is really impacting Utah. So you can see it in this graph. The red is the numbers we've already talked about. Those are those direct effects. But then when we consider all of the indirect and induced effects, then we add another 127,000 jobs, another $9.3 billion in earnings, and another $13.6 billion in GDP. So there's really just a large economic impact from the life sciences industry. It supports Utah's economy pretty significantly. If we go back to Rice-Eccles Stadium, we now need more than 3 stadiums to fit all the life sciences. The employees of the life sciences industries are employees that are supported by the life sciences industry. And then I also think that it's just interesting to see where the jobs are that are either within the life sciences industry or supported by it. I think some of the larger industries are unsurprising. We see a lot of employment in manufacturing, professional services, education, and health. But really, jobs are being supported in nearly every industry in the state, things like construction, wholesale trade, leisure, and hospitality. And as that money works its way through the economy, it's supporting a lot of Utah industries. And then we also go ahead and try to measure the fiscal impact of the life sciences industry. So this is thinking about, state and local government revenues and expenditures. So we measured that for 2022, and it's roughly $542 million in net state and local revenue. And that's after considering all the tax revenues that are collected, and then subtracting the extra services that are needed to support the life sciences industry and its employees. Of course, when you have all of those people and all of those businesses, there's needs for state and local government services, school district services. So we take all of that into account and pull it out and still see $542 million in net state and local tax revenue supported by life sciences. Okay, so now we'll just spend a little bit of time talking about workforce and growth trends by state and seeing kind of how Utah compares to other states. I will just mention that we do use a slightly different definition. We pull those hand-picked companies out for these comparisons because, of course, we don't have the luxury of hand-picking companies for every state in the nation to make a fair comparison. But this does give us an idea of kind of how Utah looks compared to other states. So just to start, we look at the workforce concentration. So this measure is measuring how much of Utah's total employment or of state's total employment is in life sciences. So you can see Utah is there in red, and 2.7% of Utah's jobs are in life sciences. And this ranks third among the 20 states with the largest life sciences employment. So life sciences is just a huge employer in the state of Utah, because I mean, you can see here that compares to only 1.5% of US jobs as a whole, so it's nearly double the workforce concentration that we see nationwide here in Utah. And then we also go ahead and look at industry job growth. So this is showing Utah on the left and other states on the right, and you can see that over the last 10 years, the average annual job growth rate in Utah was 5.1%, compared to 3.5% in other states. So our life sciences industry has been growing faster than it has been in other states, but also it has a higher growth rate than other industries. So we see life sciences in Utah being higher, both compared to other industries and compared to other states. And then this graphic is just showing those 20 states with the most life sciences employment and what that growth rate was. And you can see Utah ranks very high. They rank third for their job growth rate over the last decade. And I do think it's also just important to acknowledge that Utah is even in this top 20 states of the most employment at all. If you think about Utah as it compares to other states just in population size, we rank about 30th. Similar number of employees, we rank about 30th. But for life sciences employment, we rank 14th. So even though we have a smaller population and a smaller workforce, we're a smaller state, we rank among the top when it comes to life sciences. Okay, and then finally, I just want to talk briefly about life sciences in higher education. Of course, our higher education institutions, we've heard from a lot of them today, they just really support a lot of things that are important for the life sciences industry, including workforce development, research, commercialization, and innovation. So we think that that's just an important component of life sciences in Utah. I'll start a little bit with that workforce development piece. Let me switch pages. Okay, so in 2000, overall, USHE institutions awarded about 2,400 degrees in science, technology, engineering, or math. And of course, we know we have life sciences workers outside of these degrees, but it kind of gives us an idea of an important input for life sciences. And that increased by more than 3 times to 7,500 degrees in 2021. And you can see that in addition to that total number increase, STEM degrees as a share of total degrees has also been increasing. So we do see a big investment in workforce development in the kinds of areas that could really support life sciences companies. And then we also see lots of research happening at higher education institutions. NIH, or the National Institutes of Health, is kind of the primary source of funding if we're thinking about academic research in life sciences. And you can see that this has increased pretty significantly as well, from $211.1 million up to $279.2 million. And a huge portion of this is going to higher ed. More than 90% of it is going to higher ed. And really, I think I have this number actually, 87.6% of this funding is at the University of Utah. So the University of Utah is just a huge player when it comes to academic life sciences and healthcare research in our state. And then in addition to research, we also just have our institutions of higher learning contributing to innovation. They are inventing, patenting, and then distributing a lot of the researched things that they've researched and getting them out into the market. So if we look at invention disclosures, they're on average about 152 invention disclosures per year, 165 patents issued, 19 license agreements, and then 7 startups that are coming out of Utah's R1 institutions. So that's the University of Utah and Utah State University. Again, I will say that more than 90% of this is coming out of the University of Utah. So we see a really big focus in life sciences research happening at the University of Utah. And you can see that when you look at the shares on the screen. So the University of Utah is in red. And this is showing the life sciences share of the innovation measures. So, 72% of invention disclosures at the U are in life sciences, more than 80% of the patents issued at the U are in life sciences. So we just see a big life sciences, investment in life sciences through our higher education institutions. And I am going to actually go ahead and stop there. I wanted to just kind of give you an overview of the big key points that we found in our study. As I mentioned, there's summary pages at the back, or the full report is available on the Gardner Institute website. And then I also just have our author contact information here. If you have any follow-up questions, you're welcome to reach out. I'm happy to take any questions if you have any questions now, but I also know this is the last session of the day, so hopefully people won't be too upset if we end a little bit early. So I'll stop right there. Yeah. It's not including any direct health, like patient-provided healthcare. Nope. So the numbers would obviously be much, much larger if we were including the employment of, Intermountain or the University of Utah Health. Good question. Awesome. Thank you so much.